As I start every meeting, I will say this is a public and recorded meeting of the Kubernetes community. And today is, I believe, June 2nd, although someone will have to confirm that's true. And we will be going through our agenda today, getting a demo of kube-lego from Christian Simon. And then we will do a 1.4 planning process update from David Aronchik, and then we will go do an update on the release 1.3. And then if we have anyone from the special interest groups that want to give out reports, we'll do a couple of those, and then we will have I suspect, short discussion about whether or not the once a month Asia friendly timing, even if this is the second time we've done this, is useful to the broader community. So, Christian, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi. So I hope everyone can hear me and see me. Okay. So my name is Christian Simon, and today I want to show you a quick demo of a thing called kube-lego. The name consists of Kubernetes, obviously, and of Lego, which stands for Let's Encrypt Go. I try to share my screen now. Yeah, should work, I think. And so the whole aim for kube-lego is to read out of the Kubernetes Ingress elements what kind of certificates you need, and then try to get them over the ACME protocol from Let's Encrypt, which, so ACME, I guess most of you have heard about it, that it's like a protocol for speak within CA. You can get the sort of certificates over different challenges, and so like there are 4 different challenges that you can use to verify that you are the domain validated owner of a domain name. And so I'm only using the HTTP just because of simplicity. One thing about Let's Encrypt, so they have like a user account, so you have a private key. With this user account, you can revoke certificates later, and they limit the maximum certificate lifetime to 90 days. So now I'm not too sure if it's going to work, but my idea was to just prove that it's not prepared too much before, so that the certificates are generated really on the fly within the demo. I asked some in the audience if they could point like their private subdomain via a CNAME record to this kube-lego.chatstack.net. If you could do that, it would be perfect, because that will show that it's really live happening, the issuance of the certificates. I've posted it to the chat in Zoom to everyone, the CNAME destination, and maybe if you could post your domain back, then I can try it in a minute during the live demo.
I can go ahead and create a CNAME, so keep talking.
Yeah, sure. So one important resource, and a rather new resource, is the Ingress resource. And kube-lego watches the Ingress resource, just to know which certificates should be there. The Ingress resource is meant to contain the rules how external clients can access services in the cluster. And so it's from my point of view, mainly focused on HTTP right now. So you can point certain virtual hosts to a certain Kubernetes service. There's one important difference compared to the service object, which actually implementation is contained in the kube proxy for service, for example, and with integration and load balancers and blah blah blah. But the Ingress has no controller in the Kubernetes core, so you need like a custom controller for it. So there, in the contrib repository, there are there exist a few controllers. So just to name one, Nginx, and for example, you can use it with GCE forwarding rules. For my demo, I'm going to use Nginx. So the whole cluster, the demo cluster, runs in AWS, and I'm just breaking on layer 4. That means so the ELBs handle only TCP, and Nginx handles the encryption and everything beyond that or on top of that. So I've prepared a little architecture overview with the resources involved. So I have like the Ingress resource of my Hello World application, which references a TLS secret and the actual service that should be seen publicly. And quite similarly, I have my kube-lego application. There should be only one pod running, and yeah, it contains a service to be accessible, and at some point an ingress rule. The ingress rule is managed by kube-lego itself, and we will see it right now. So I'm just showing one flow. So as soon as kube-lego runs, it's going to watch changes in ingress objects, and yeah, just to get the host names that should be available via TLS. So as soon as it recognizes the need for a new certificate, so it checks if the referenced secret exists or if it's expired or not containing all the domain names. So if that happens, so that a new request is needed, it's going to start with setting up the challenge endpoints. So there's like a sub path where you do the validation over, and you have to set the ingress rule for that. And yeah, the next thing is kube-lego checks if there's already this private user key existing. If it's existing, it's in a stored in a secret resource, and yeah, if not, it's going to be created on the fly and stored in a secret resource for the next yeah, next certificate. Then we're going to connect via an API to Let's Encrypt and request the certificates with the domain names that are needed. The next thing is we Let's Encrypt calls our public endpoint and tries to find out if we are eligible for this certificate, and if so, we get back the signed certificate. kube-lego finally stores the certificate in the secret resource that is referenced by the Ingress object, and that's the end of the story. So now I'm going to move to the demo. So just give me a moment.
And you have a CNAME back in.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Fantastic.
I'm looking for the window to share. So hopefully everyone can see the tmux now. I can see it. Okay, so here we see the state of the current cluster I'm running. So I'm having like the Nginx Ingress running. I'm having my Hello World Echo server application running, and just some default backend to answer bit 404s for everything that is not mapped to anything. We see just an Nginx secret, nothing else, and we see no Ingress objects, and yeah, the services for the pods we've created. So now I'm going to start and create a config map for kube-lego, the service to make it available publicly, and a deployment just to deploy one pod. So that works pretty well. If you look at the status, yeah, we see the container is running now. We have the new service as well. So we can continue with the Ingress object for our Echo server. So just first, I'm gonna use this demo URL, and then I'm gonna add your CNAME, Sarah. So right now, if I'm calling the domain name, it should return a 404. Yeah, it does. And now I'm gonna create the Ingress rule, and then we should see the output from the Echo server. So that's an Ingress rule without TLS enabled. I'm gonna run an apply now. So we have the Ingress here, and we should be able with a curl to get now a non-404 output. So something, no, it's there. So here is the Echo output from the Echo service. And now the interesting thing happens. So I'm gonna reconfiguring the Ingress object with this annotation. That just means kube-lego look at this Ingress resource and yeah, enable for the demo host name the TLS and specify a secret name. So I'm doing now the apply again with the changed object, and now we can see kube-lego creates a separate Ingress object that contains this well-known path where the challenge happens from Let's Encrypt. We can see here now a kube-lego account object we created, so that's the private key. And so hopefully, if everything runs well, that's now the kube-lego log output. We're gonna get the certificate request through via Let's Encrypt. So right now, the kube-lego daemon does sort of a self-check if it can reach itself. So that had happened before. So like with this testing reachability of the endpoint. And as soon as the reachability worked, it actually requested it from Let's Encrypt, and that's showing the private key, so don't look at it. And now the object should be there. So we see the TLS secret as well, so it's 23 seconds old. That's containing our private key and certificate. And now I should be able to curl it over HTTPS, which is working. So we have now the encryption there. And for example, if I want to look at the certificate, I can see, it is valid for the next 90 days, and it's valid for this domain name. And so now I'm gonna add Sarah's domain. So like kube-lego, just to chat.
.sarah.is.
Okay, so I'm not pointing any kind of application behind it, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just now applying the Ingress object, which should trigger the adding of the auto challenge endpoint. And if I look at the kube-lego output, it's now actually already recognized and try to find or try to get the self-check running. So it's still getting a 404. That just means Nginx hasn't reconfigured yet. And it's like, now it's happening. So the check worked. We got the validation through. The certificate is here. Now it's usually taking a couple of seconds for Nginx to reload the certificate. So we can give it a try to just look at the certificate. It's not there yet. But it should happen any second. And now there is it. kube-lego.sarah.es is now validated, and hopefully, if I'm gonna show it in Chrome, then it should show the green sign. So kube-lego. And there it is. So we have our certificate there, and so the demo worked. I'm pretty happy, and so I think we don't have too much time left. So if there are any questions, I'm gonna add my contact details into GitHub. repo, which contains this kind of examples I've run. And okay.
Thanks, Christian. That's great fun. I was really excited to see Let's Encrypt and Let's Encrypt working with Nginx when that all came out late last year.
Yeah, so I was pretty happy. It worked pretty soon with my first kind of implementation for my private cluster. And yeah, now I've improved it a bit.
That's very exciting. And you said you'll put your contact info in the repo, which we link off to from the show notes. That's a terrible thing to say, from our meeting notes. Awesome. Well, thank you. And I'm sure people will reach out if they've got questions. So I'm going to hop on to the next item because we are running just a little bit behind. And I know that David is trying to catch a plane. So David Aronchik is going to talk a little bit about the grand plan about planning 1.4.
Hey everyone, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, so sorry, the plane is boarding, so you're going to hear some boarding messages in the background, but this shouldn't take too terribly long. So one thing that we've had a lot of requests for is a more general and community-driven planning process, particularly when it comes to some of the larger features that are going to appear in future versions of Kubernetes. We, a few weeks ago, circulated a proposal to everyone, and I'm going to take on the responsibility of helping to close the proposal. I'm not doing that right now. What I am doing is just letting you know what the process is going to look like for closing that down. So,
was that proposal the feature repo proposal, or are you talking about a different one?
Correct. The feature repo proposal, it was sent out to Kubernetes dev, lots of comments and so on.
Fantastic.
So the plan is right now, what we'd like to do is get nominees. You can nominate yourself. You can nominate other people who aren't on this call. I'll be sending out requests to Kubernetes dev for people who nominate themselves to be part of a community PM group, which will help to close this process down. Once we identify those people and all agree that the flow is what we agree to, we will basically go forward with that flow as a proposal. And that flow might look like you have to submit a proposal to the feature repo. That needs to be voted on. There needs to be testing or issues associated with that, so on and so forth. I won't detail all that there. There's a quite detailed proposal in the document. Second to that is once we identify what that proposal is, they will have a set of steps that come out of it and basically identify all those individual steps that ultimately will result in us having a process for locking down on features. I will share with you after this call and in the notes, and then again on email, both the feature proposal and the feature repo. But I would like to say, by the end of next week, that's next Friday, I'd like to identify everyone who would like to be part of the community PM group. It's not to say we're locking it down. People can nominate themselves at any time. But that said, by that point, if you haven't nominated yourself and joined our list and voted on the proposal, you lose your chance on this first go-round. So I just want to make it clear to everyone that this is going on and see if anyone has any issues, objections, and so on.
And we'll bring this up also on next week's call. And it sounds like, David, you're also sending email about this, right?
Yes. I promise to send an email once a day reminding everyone to nominate themselves and join the feature repo as, watch it or so on. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
Nominations, thoughts?
Yes, nominations. If you'd like to join up, send over a note. You name it. Okay. With that, I'm on the plane.
Going to board.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great trip, David. All right. So next up on today's agenda, this may be one of the shorter meetings we have. Next up on today's agenda is the 1.3 update. I believe that I saw TJ on here moments ago.
Yes, I'm around here.
Fantastic. Hello, TJ.
Sarah,
Mm.
sorry, before you move on, I was just looking through the Kubernetes dev group at least, and there's nothing there. So, not that I can find at least based on that description. So,
The Kubernetes dev group, nothing based on which description? On the conversation that David...
on what David was just saying.
Right. He is going to send an email about it.
Okay. He hasn't yet. Okay.
He has not yet, but he is referencing the feature repo discussion that we had a few weeks ago from Eric Paris's recommendation that we separate all out feature issues, feature definitions, and set up a workflow within that out in its own repo so that we can have more broad access and ACLs given so that people can say triage things, update issues more accurately, label them, that kind of stuff. So it's an extension of that.
Can you just post a link to that? I'm searching for it here and I can't actually find it.
Sure, I will find that and I will post it into the chat.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we good to go on with TJ then?
Sure. So release 1.3 update. So first, a quick check-in on the 4 sort of key blocking features we called out. So the first is cross-cluster service federation, otherwise known as Kubernetes or part of Kubernetes. There's one remaining PR. It is about AWS integration. It has LGTM, and it's just going through the process of getting tests working and merged. And then a few EDE tests need to be added, but that is finally in its sort of last throes. So second feature, stateful application support, otherwise known as PETset. That is finished. All code is in as an alpha feature. Scalability towards 2,000 nodes is sort of the third high-level feature, and that work is all done and scaling towards 2,000 and testing is ongoing. And lastly, the fourth feature is the distributed test dashboard, and actually Eric Feta from Google sent out an email to Kubernetes dev earlier today. That's now live at testgrid.k8s.io, and it is very cool. It is a visual indication of all the tests that are run inside Google and whether or not they've passed or failed, so you can sort of see visually how things are looking across all the different test suites and across time, as well as it supports uploading test results from third parties to be displayed in the same dashboard. So we have some, I believe it's Azure and Rocket NetEase already have tests being run outside Google, and the results are being uploaded and displayed alongside it. So that is the latest good news, and so that one is done. So that was sort of a pass over the key features for 1.3, or at least the headliner ones. In terms of timeline, that's the next thing to talk about.
Before you go on, question.
Yeah.
Can you point to a single cohesive description for what the PETset feature is? This came up last week as well.
Yes. We will obviously have documentation that will be written over the next couple weeks before we launch. Is that sufficient? Or are you looking to look at something like right now? Or
I'm wondering how you could be saying that it's done if there's no actual description of what it is anywhere.
So there's a PR that was
260.
You've read?
I have read 260.
260. Okay, and that's not sufficient.
That is not sufficient.
Okay.
You cannot actually quite discern from reading 260 what done would be. Okay.
In that case, I don't personally know if we have that doc in one place. I can go try to dig and send that along though.
Okay. I think I'm just making sure that it isn't hiding somewhere that people can't find as opposed to not existing. And it sounds like it's not existing. So.
Brian Grant just said in chat, there isn't a doc yet.
Okay.
So it sounds like that's the answer, whether or not that's ideal.
I'm just not, I guess, so something is done. It's not clear what done is. And I'm just wondering how we know that the feature set is complete if there isn't a single cohesive description of what the feature set is. But I don't want to belabor this too much, but I think for it to be done, we have to figure out what done is. That's
Yeah,
all.
no, I mean, it's a fair point for sure.
Brian is also reminding us that this is the alpha version of it, so it's not feature complete, and it is the first underpinnings of. But yes, your point is well taken that there needs to be a PRD, there needs to be documentation that says what we think we have accomplished and what we will be accomplishing going forward.
Well, the fact that it's alpha and as a subset is also not really been clearly communicated anywhere.
Almost every new feature goes in as alpha in the first time it appears.
Nevertheless,
Okay. This is part of why we are pulling together this whole product team and plan. And indeed. So on the plus side, we've improved between 1.1 and 1.2 and 1.2 and 1.3, and we're going to keep continuing in that process and in that vein. So I know, Bob, you also volunteered your time and or someone from your team's time to help on that. So thank you.
Yep.
Awesome. TJ, were you going on to the next thing?
Yes, the next thing is just timeline of what remains for 1.3. We have 3 weeks and 1 day until our launch date, which we set for June 24th a while back. And things appear to still be on track. We held a pretty hard line on feature complete, and that does seem to be paying dividends as we go burn down the rest of the milestone. So the way those 3 weeks are going to look is we will branch and release a beta. So we've been releasing alphas every 2 weeks. We'll release a beta on June 10th, which is about a week away. Once that happens, then once we branch, head will be unslushed, and so anyone will be able to check in a larger feature code into 1.4. So basically, head becomes the new 1.4 branch. The launch will then be 2 weeks from that. So from June 10th, launching to June 24th, we will go out the door. We are having, I think it's been mentioned in this meeting the last few weeks, though I haven't been here. We're having these milestone burn down meetings that anyone is invited to. Let me know if you are particularly interested in them. But it's basically a handful of people getting together 3 times a week just to look at what is left in the V1.3 milestone. And that means literally all the issues and all the PRs that have the V1.3 milestone tag in them in GitHub. Because that is sort of our burn down list. When that hits 0, we feel like we can launch, as well as, of course, watching the queue and the test signals and all of those things, and working on docs. But that is sort of the key code work that remains. So basically the takeaway is that is our timeline, and that if you have anything that is a critical bug or issue that needs to get fixed for 1.3, make sure you are tagging it or having someone tag it with the V1.3 milestone, because the queue is now turning away any PRs that don't have that milestone.
Until the branch.
Yes, until the branch in just over a week.
Cool. Thank you, TJ. Does anybody have any questions about the timing and the where we are and or want to get added to that burn down list? No? Or you're on mute? Okay, cool. Thank you, TJ. I had a placeholder in here for SIG reports, but I didn't have anybody who jumped up and down and said they wanted to offer a report on a special interest group. Does anybody have any statuses they want to give? We'll do this quietly. Doesn't sound like it. Okay, well then I have one last issue of administrivia, which is I don't see anyone that I don't recognize on here and for whom this is a much more convenient time. So is there anyone from, say, China or Japan or Hong Kong for whom this is a better time today? I'll take that as a resounding not really. Fantastic. Then I say that we, for the time being, don't do Asia-friendly time zone meetings for a while until we get some resounding cry for them. We've done 2, and we've had exactly 1 person who found this a more convenient time. Does that?
Seconded.
Seconded. All right. Fantastic. Well then, Elon's raising his hands. Yay, waving. Okay, fantastic. Then I will say that this was a lovely and important experiment, but that we don't have a lot of people from the time zones where this is a lot more convenient, and we will go back to 10 a.m. regularly until we hear something otherwise. Does anybody have anything else they want to cover, or do we get a half hour of our life back? If it's a pressing need, you're still on mute. All right, well then, have a great week. We will give more updates about the 1.4 planning process next week. There will be emails about it, recommending that people nominate themselves, each other, friends, family, all of that, and follow up with topics for next time. All right. Have a lovely Thursday evening, and I will see you all in a week.
Thank you.
Bye. Waving.